Hello and welcome to the first of my Wisdom Warrior Women series. I'm Linda Kahn, and I want to inspire us all by showcasing those I consider to be wisdom warrior women. They have a natural ability, or they've learned over the years, how to accept and use both their masculine and feminine sides of themselves in an honoring and welcoming way. And through these examples, I hope to show you what it means to be a wisdom warrior woman and how you can step into that for yourself as well. Now, beyond the conversation of the day around general gender, what is that? Gender, what does that mean? We're still mainly viewing ourselves as either or. We're either a man or a woman, and we're supposed to choose one or the other of those. But the fact is, on the energetic level of who we truly are, we are very much both masculine and feminine. Each of those channels of energy have certain qualities and characteristics that we need to survive and thrive. But even though we use both of them all the time, yes, there's a kind of moving back and forth that we do automatically. We're kind of focused on one or the other and taught that that's what we should do. The thing is, we are these two channels of energy already. And when we turn away from one or the other, we're not really operating at full capacity. There's a lot of energy that we expand on pushing away a part of us that we fear or distrust. So lots more to speak to in further videos on that. But for right now, I want to introduce my first wisdom warrior woman, Dolly Parton. And to just help do that, I am going to, let's see, share the screen. Hold on. When I recently watched a Netflix documentary called Dolly Parton, Here I Am, released in 2019, I was so moved and touched by what an amazing human being she is. The show was celebrating Dolly singing at the Grand Ole Opry's 50th anniversary in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, if you're not American, the Grand Ole Opry is home for country music in America. And I thought, well, she's the perfect candidate to start off this series of wisdom warrior women. And when I say Dolly said, I'm literally quoting from her because I took notes while I watched this at my computer. Dolly began the program by saying, if I was trying to describe myself to someone who had never seen me before, I'm a songwriter first. It's my therapy. The fourth of 12 children, Dolly grew up dirt poor on a farm in the mountains of eastern Tennessee. Dolly says, my people were very, very musical. My mother's people, they all played some sort of musical instrument. And it was mostly old mountain music, the old world stories where people carried the messages of the world in song. All of that stuff that was brought over by our ancestors was just embedded in my soul. I call it my Smoky Mountain DNA. Now, in this video series, my aim is to show how these two channels of our feminine and masculine energies operate in all of us. But in particular, using these examples of the women I'm calling wisdom warriors, to help us see how both are important and how we cut one or the other off at our peril. So let's begin with this feminine channel. Energetically, the feminine is the magnetic energy in the universe, the darkness, the void, the womb out of which creation comes forth. It's about feeling, intuition, nurturing, receiving, attracting. It's connected to the left side of our body and our right brain. And it's the negative polarity, meaning that electrical charge. There's positive, negative electromagnetic energy that operates everything. And that feminine is the negative side. It's not a value judgment in any way, as well as the passive. Same thing. It's that receptive aspect as opposed to the active on the masculine side. So first thing I want to speak to is Dolly's extreme creativity. I mean, she's written well over 3,000 songs, many of the major hits that are still played all over the world. Jolene is one, and one that we've all heard, I Will Always Love You. Since the 1960s, Dolly Parton has created nearly 90 albums, with the latest one coming out soon, alongside her very first novel, Run, Rose, Run, co-written with James Patterson. Dolly is a songwriter, a singer, a producer, a movie, theater, and TV actress, a philanthropist, a humanitarian, creator of family theme parks, and literally just turning 77 years old this past January 19th in 2023, it looks like she has no plans for stopping. The creative aspect is the feminine side, that impulse to bring forward something new, something that is our own creation. But, you know, here's the thing, without the masculine operating, all those songs could have stayed in a drawer somewhere, never heard, never shared. The masculine energy forms the bridge between that creation and the world. It brings ideas from the outer world into us, into our psyche. And then once they've been created, it carries them from that inner world to the outer world. So this role as a bringer and a bridger are major aspects of the masculine in a woman's psyche. And now this next part, the dumb blonde that Dolly is so famous for and gets a lot of comments on. We can't ignore this aspect of Dolly Parton and this feminine energy, her big boobs and big hair. Her song, Dumb Blonde, was her first chart record in 1966. In it, she says, the lyrics, "Just because I'm blonde, don't think I'm dumb, because this blonde ain't nobody's fool." By embracing the dumb blonde stereotype, she turned it on its head. She's saying to us, don't judge a book by its cover. It seems to me that she's holding up a mirror for all of us to see where we judge other people based on certain stereotypes, whatever that might be, skin color, what you look like, and so on. And she calls on us to see through them. It looks like she took where she came from and lifted it up. There was a famous interview with Barbara Walters many years ago, who said to Dolly, quote, "You don't have to look like this. You're very beautiful. You don't have to wear the blonde wigs. You don't have to wear the extreme clothes, right?" And Dolly replied, "No, it's really a choice. I just decided that I would do something that would at least get some attention. And once they got past the shock of the ridiculous way I looked and all that, then they would see there are parts of me to be appreciated. And show business is a money-making joke. I've just always liked telling jokes, you know." So to me, it's like part of this is to remind all the women of the world who do look like her to stand up and be proud of who you are and where you come from. Don't let anybody put you down for that. You can have big boobs and big hair and be smart and creative and a successful businesswoman, a big star with a big heart. And that one of those qualities of that feminine channel is attraction. And she's pulled that off quite a lot. Now, the third piece of the feminine that I want to speak to is nurturing, right? Giving and being of service. So beyond Dolly's music and entertaining, she's also known as the book lady, a title she says makes her feel like I've done something good with my life and with my success. Now, her father was illiterate. He never learned to read or write, and that kept his family in poverty. In 1986, Dolly created the Dollywood Foundation to give college scholarships to high school students in Eastern Tennessee and beyond. And then in 1995, the Imagination Library started to promote reading in early childhood. Now, as of January 2023, this incredible organization has gifted over 199 million books to children across America, Canada, the UK, Australia, and the Republic of Ireland. Every month, children in the program, and anyone can sign up, they receive a free age-appropriate book until they're 5 years old. They are encouraged to dream more, learn more, care more, and be more. And Dolly, as you see there in the image at the Imagination Library, there's videos where she reads books out loud and kids can follow along. That's for the feminine channel right now. We'll talk about that. And now to move to the masculine energy channel. In order for us to truly live our lives fully, we need to have access to and use all the parts of us. The masculine is the radiant energy channel. The feminine was the magnetic side. The masculine radiant energy channel is that outward moving energy, action-oriented, the positive electrical charge. It's like that sense coming from the sun of radiance moving outward. It governs the right side of our body and the left side of our brain. In our psyche, the masculine energy is there to support, protect, and serve our feminine creativity. Not in any way out of weakness of the feminine. It's there to be our partner. It's vital for our survival, for our self-esteem, and for our ability to take action. These are some of the aspects of the masculine energy that we can see clearly operating in Dolly Parton. And she speaks of this in a fully aware, conscious kind of way. But before I go there, I want to say, there is so often a misunderstanding about what the masculine energy channel even is. If I ask you, what words come up when I say masculine energy? I bet I'd hear from you things like aggression, domination, control. And if I ask you, well, what words come up for the feminine energy? I'd hear things like nurturing, caring, feeling, intuition. The big problem with this is that this is actually comparing the shadow side of the masculine with the wholehearted side of the feminine. It is not an equal comparison at all, and yet it persists. This masculine is so often equated with aggression and the feminine with nurturing. The wholehearted masculine is none of those things. while the shadow feminine has similar qualities of manipulation, domination, and being in control. It's time we began to grasp what the wholehearted masculine is, so we stop pushing it away out of fear and fear of being too aggressive. Let's look to some of these qualities that have to do with that masculine energy channel and how we use it in our life. Boundaries. One of these hot topic words of the day in the personal development world is that women need to create healthy boundaries. And this is actually one of the masculine's essential roles in our lives. So here are some examples and how Dolly shows us this notion of boundaries. Dolly Parton met her husband, Carl Dean, in the laundromat on her first day in Nashville in 1964. She was 18 years old. They dated for a couple of years. And her producers, she was already in the singing business then, her producers didn't want her to get married. And so she and Carl kept that a secret for a year to prove she could be married and have a career at the same time. And this documentary I watched, there were many, many people who spoke about Dolly over the years. And several said that nearly none of the people outside of her own family have ever even met him or seen him very rarely. So this was one way that she created the privacy she knew she needed. He was not interested in that whole big entertainment public life, and she was. She devoted her career to her fans, but she kept her own life private. And they're still married 57 years later. Next thing I want to speak to, that masculine energy helps us to be clear about what we actually want, and clear to say we have the right to have desires and to know what they are. So many women have a hard time with this. Dolly Parton performed for the first time in public when she was 10 years old. She said, quote, "I had an uncle that played guitar really good, and he saw early on how serious I was about my music. So he used to take me around. And that first time I played in public, they just kept asking me to sing it again and sing it again. I remember looking up at my uncle and saying, I'm going to be a star, ain't I? And it was at that moment that I realized that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Now, not everyone has that clarity at such a young age, but even those of us who do or did, they had to nurture the dream, feed it, water it, tend it for it to bloom. She was also very clear that this stardom would be on her terms. She said, again quoting, "I don't ever want to get myself pigeonholed where people think I cannot do anything but one thing, or that they put me in a place to where I'm not allowed to. I won't allow that to happen either, because I love being able to express myself in any way I feel like it." Third piece is determination, another masculine energy quality that shines through with Dolly. She said, "It never crossed my mind that I couldn't do it because I was a woman. I was just going to do what I did, what I thought I did best, and never once thought that that was going to ever not work for me. I didn't care. I wasn't afraid of anybody. I will either succeed or I will fail. We are all here for a reason, and I aim to put everything I can into my life." Fourth little piece of the masculine energy channel, calling this business smarts, thinking strategically, logically, right? That's a big part of the masculine energy arena. And yes, living in our heads is something we can all do too much of. This rising conversation out there in the world about tapping into our intuition and our feminine energy is absolutely important, but not to give up one for the other. Both of these are important. Dolly had the ability to use her intuition and her strategic mind. She said, quote, "You know, I look like a woman, but I think like a man. And in this world of business, that has helped me a lot." When she arrived in Nashville, the home of country music in America, as a seemingly naive 18-year-old, she said, "You really had to stand up for yourself if you wanted to be in business, especially then as a country girl who really did look like a dumb blonde." The next piece is a game plan. She said, "I absolutely had a game plan. I wanted to do everything that a body could do as an entertainer. I wanted to be worldwide. I wanted to get in the movies. I thought, well, if I'm going to be a star, why not be a big star? So my plan was to find management, to get with a label that was really going to support me as an individual star, not just part of a group." She also was willing and able to learn from the best and to ask for help. It's actually that wounded masculine side of us that has us thinking that we have to do everything on our own. We have to prove ourselves, and that our accomplishments are somehow not real if we have to ask for help. Dolly, again, quoting, "When you start out in the business, you start out to try and make it yourself, and then you wind up working with other people. And if you're smart, like for instance, when I worked with the Porter Wagner show, a show that I was with for 7 years, you learn from the best, all the people around you, how they do things." She talked about how she was a sponge. She could just watch how people were doing things. Toward the end of her time, though, on that show, Porter's show, she outgrew her need for his coaching, and her iconic song, "I Will Always Love You," was written to Porter Wagner as a way of saying she needed to leave and fly on her own wings. An example of how Dolly's intuition and the business savvy work together, how that feminine, masculine energy speaks to us and we move forward with it as a partnership. Elvis Presley, who was known as the King at that time, he wanted to record that song, but he also said he wanted full publishing rights. Dolly said no. She recognized it was her most important copyright and that she had to hold on to it. Lloyd Green, one of her session musicians, said, quote, "That was one of the great career decisions she made in her life, because Elvis was Elvis, for God's sake." She said no, and that demonstrated her astuteness as a businesswoman. It was a great chess move, unquote. It wasn't until nearly 20 years later that Whitney Houston took that song to #1 for 14 weeks in America, bringing Dolly riches and worldwide fame and recognition. So here's Dolly recently. Let's look further at how these two energies are partnerships. From the get-go, Dolly understood that to create the life she wanted, she had to make it come alive. This is the essence of how we are all creating our own reality. You can do that consciously with intent, or you float along unaware of how your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors bring you the life you're in. Dolly said, again quoting, "To me, stardom was more than a place. It was a feeling. It was a fantasy. It was a world that I lived with inside of my own head and inside of my own heart." Without her welcoming and nurturing her dream, the feminine energy, and then believing in it and taking action on it, the masculine energy, the world might never have known this amazing human being. We can see another way these two energies come together when Dolly said, "I know how to stand my ground. I know how to speak up. I know how to stand sturdy, but that doesn't mean I've hardened my heart." To me, that's just a beautiful statement of how those two things work together. Linda Perry, one of her managers, said, "Dolly has mastered the design of how to be a woman and succeed in this business without making a man feel bad. In fact, without making anybody feel bad." Jane Fonda, her co-star in the movie 9 to 5, put it this way: "It's like through her songs, she opens her arms wide and embraces such a broad swath of people that don't always feel seen. And it's why people love her. It's why, when we've been in public with her, her fans will drive for hours to be where she is." I've been with a lot of big movie stars, and I have never seen the devotion that her fans have for her in anyone else. It's quite extraordinary. This choice to be there for her fans, to be there for her public and express herself so fully on the world stage is not pain-free. There are costs with any choices we make. Dolly said, again quoting, "With all the glamour and all the other businesses and all the stuff I do, you'd be shocked to know how little I still am, how small and how vulnerable and how country, and how I'm still so that little girl." And that's true for all of us. We have that inner child, that inner little girl who's there. And when we establish a relationship with her, this helps us to move past those early parts that are wounding us. Again, I'm quoting Dolly. "You can't live as much as I've lived and be willing to give and express yourself as much as I do to the public. And you can't even give yourself away that much without really suffering a great deal of sorrow." That's my point here as well. To be what I'm calling a wisdom warrior woman is to be fully human, to open to what life brings us and be able to create the life we want. And of course, this includes joys and sorrows. It's about telling our truth, whatever that means for us, and inspiring others along the way. So I hope that you enjoyed this glimpse into Dolly's life. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, leave any comments below, and join me in this exploration of what does this mean to really use and open up and value both the masculine and the feminine sides of us. If you'd like to get a regular update, both the videos and follow-up transcripts, along with exploring this topic more deeply, you can go to my website, my name, lindacon.com/free guide. Sign up, join up with me, and we'll continue as we go along. Thank you so much. I love joining you and hope that you'll follow along. Bye for now.